Good afternoon, students in my 7 and 8 class and anybody else that might be watching. We are starting today with our order of operations. My grade 8s have seen this last year, and my grade 7s have seen a little bit of it. We will be moving tomorrow into order of operations using the integers that we've been talking about the last few days, but for today, we're just going to stick with basic order of operations and go from there, and we'll build on it. Anyhow, our little note today looks something like this, that when you have a multi-step question or a question that has a lot of operations in it, regardless of how the question looks, there is a set order, and the order, it is a rule. It is not logic, it is a rule. You must do this step before this step. And that's what the acronym BEDMAS stands for. Now, there's many acronyms that mean the same thing. They just change some of the letters. You might see it somewhere written as PEDMAS, where B is no longer brackets, but is parentheses. There are some different, you might see it called BEMDAS, where multiplication and division, which we're going to find out in a few minutes, are interchangeable. There's a lot of different short forms or initials that show us this rule and way of solving math questions. So don't get too excited about the actual letters. We will explain them as we go, and it'll become perfectly clear. Anyhow, so now we're going to start here on the note, and we see in the note that some of the words are highlighted and they're in red. And I want to draw your attention because each of those represents one of the letters in our acronym. There's the E there. There's the D and the M, and that's how we come up with this acronym when we're doing it. So when you see this word, that's what it means. It means brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So I'll just quickly go over the note like we did again today. Brackets, if you see something in brackets, it gets done first. Very, very simple. If it's in the brackets, you do it first before you do anything else. Second are exponents. And you know that is a number like 2 or 3 or whatever the number is with a number to the top right of it. Please don't get fooled. A lot of times when people see a number like 3 squared, they multiply it 3 times 2. It is a huge mistake that kids make when they first start dealing with exponents. And 3 to the power 2 is 3 times 3, not 3 times 2 that a lot of people make it out to be. So it is that number multiplied by itself, not by 2. Anyhow, and then after we get through exponents, now there's a little kind of a choice, but it's not much of a choice. In a question, you will do the division or the multiplication in the order they appear. Meaning, if the division part was before the multiplication, you would do the division part first. But in that same line, if the multiplication was before division, you would do it first. So really, these two in our acronym are interchangeable. Whichever of these two, just the division and the multiplication, when you get to that, you can move those around. And similarly, when you get to addition and subtraction, whichever one of those two comes first, you do first, and you can interchange them. But you cannot interchange, say, a subtraction with a multiplication. Those ones are not linked together. The only ones linked together are your division and multiplication are linked, and your addition and subtraction are linked. So if either of those two are in the question, you do whichever comes first, or if either of those two are in the question, you do whatever comes first. All right. So those are our order. That's the order we're going to do it. The brackets, the exponents, the division or multiplication, and the addition or subtraction in whichever order. Let's get started and try doing a few. When we first start doing this, a real foolproof trick is to have this chart or the word BEDMAS, just quickly write it right over top of your work on your sheet, and maybe you draw something like these to remember that they're linked together. Anyhow, when you see your question like this one here, 5 plus 3 times 4, when you are first learning, a real key strategy is to look through here, figure out which operation you're dealing with in your question, and underline it. So if I'm looking at this question, 5 plus 3 times 4, there are no brackets to do. There are no exponents to do. But there is some there is no division either, but there's some multiplication and some addition. But when I look at my order, that order of operations that I'm going to do, I see that the multiplication comes before the addition. So what we do to show that is you underline it right here. Now another huge mistake kids make is they break the question apart into groups. And I know sometimes it's really nice to compartmentalize that sort of thing, and I get it. But when we are doing these type of questions, they are going to lead to even larger questions. And breaking it up is a key mistake. Do not underline, break up question. Do not deconstruct it and then try to reconstruct it later. It will hurt you. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to write in the same order the stuff that we're not doing. So I'm not going to touch that 5 yet, so I will write on my next line 5. But I am going to do this 3 plus 4. And 3 times 4 is 12. So that's my first line, what I'm doing. And you see that I have that nice equal sign. Now, I'm going to continue to go down. I'm going to continue to go up and down. I don't like going left and right for these because I like to show all my steps. Anyhow, there's not much choice to do here. All you can do is 5 plus 12, and that is 17. And if you circle your final answer, it's really nice and easy to see. So that's how we do it. But now we're going to get into larger and larger questions. So now we're going to attack this one right here. So we're going to do 3 times 4, and it's in brackets or parentheses. And we're going to multiply it by 9, subtract 7 in brackets. And you see that the answer of that is squared. So there is quite a bit going on in this question. Well, the first thing says we have to do brackets. If we look back to our acronym, brackets is first, and we actually have 2 brackets. Now, because these 2 brackets don't interact with each other, we can do them both in the same line. If you wanted to do them in separate lines, you can go ahead and do that, but these 2 aren't going to change. We're just going to write them right across and do the work that's in the brackets. So 3 times 4 is 12. We're going to put the multiplication symbol because we haven't touched it. And we're going to do 9 subtract 7. 9 subtract 7 is 2, but I want you to remember that there's that squared symbol outside the answer to whatever this was. So now that's going to be 2 squared. So when I go looking for my next thing to do, I actually have 2 operations that are left. I have multiplication here, and I have an exponent here. So I'll refer back to my acronym, back to my little helpful BEDMAS, and it tells me that exponents come before multiplication. So I have to rewrite it, keep the same order because I haven't touched that 12, and I'm going to multiply it by whatever 2 to the power 2 is. We know that 2 to the power 2 is really just 2 times 2. So my new question is 12 times 4. I'm hoping for the majority of the questions we do, we won't need a calculator. If we do 12 times 4, we know really that's 10 times 4, which is 40, and 2 times 4, which is 8. We put them together, we get 48. If you have to use your calculator, you can, but it is so much better to start learning how to do some of this mentally in your head. You'll save yourself a ton of time. Anyhow, continuing on, I'm going to put the word BEDMAS right back here again, so it's always clear as a bell where it is, so that I can see it when I'm doing all my questions. I'm going to continue to link the addition and subtraction and the division and the multiplication because it's important that you know that those 2 go together. Well, now I see 2 big brackets. I have a big bracket here and a big bracket here, and I have to do everything inside of the bracket. What might confuse me is I might not know, should I do the multiplication part first or I do the addition part in the brackets first, because it still has an order. And that order is still determined by your acronym, BEDMAS. In this, we're going to have to do the multiplication first. And in here, we're going to have to do the multiplication first. Again, we can do both brackets a little bit because they're not affecting each other. So to erase so that looks a little more clear, I'm going to do both brackets at the same time. If you want to do each bracket on a different line, it'll only take you a few seconds longer. But anyhow, I know I'm going to have to do 4 times 3 first, so I will write down the 2 just like it looks and do 12. And then I'm going to subtract. I know I'm going to do 2 times 5 first because multiplication comes before subtraction. So that'll be 10 minus 8. That is so far what I have. I have to put my new equal sign because we're working our way down. 2 plus 12 is 14. I no longer need the brackets. And I am going to subtract 10 minus 8, which is 2. Now that I have that, my answer is 12. I circle it to complete and show the teacher that I am finished my question. And here's our last example. And don't worry, we're going to play with this for days. We haven't even started our division part in here or our integers. But don't worry about it. It's a building process. Anyhow, in this question, when you look, what am I going to do first? You should see that there are exponents to do. There's subtraction, there's addition, and there's multiplication. If you go back to your chart, it will tell you that exponents is the first thing you do. So we're going to have to do this and this. Please remember not to change the order and don't change any of the signs all around. It gets written down exactly like it was in the same order. You just complete the mathematical part that you were working on. So I'm going to do 3 squared first. I know 3 squared is not 3 times 2. That's a big no-no, but really it's 3 times 3. So I know that answer is 9. I'm not going to change my order, so I'm just going to write down the rest of it. Remember, I underlined the stuff that I'm doing first. Anyhow, don't forget that subtraction sign. It goes right there. Anyhow, now I have 4 squared, and I know that that is 16. Now when I look at my question, I can see that I have addition, multiplication, and subtraction to do. If I look at my list, I know multiplication comes before addition or subtraction. So I write down in the same order. I haven't touched the 9 yet, so it has to go there. Don't break it apart. Do not deconstruct the question. Plus, 4 times 3 is 12. And then subtract 16. Now I have addition and subtraction. I'm going to do it in the order they appear, so I'm going to do my addition first. When I look at 9 times 12, in my mind, I bring the 9 up to 10. I just borrow 1 off the other side, and I get 10 plus 11, so that's 21. That's my mental math. And I have 21 minus 16. Anyhow, 21 minus 16 is 15. You circle it, and that is the basis for our math for today. We will be on this for 2 or 3 or 4 days until everyone feels really comfortable, and we will revisit it later with algebra and with fractions. So get a really good grasp of it and ask lots of questions because it will be a reoccurring theme in our math this year. Good luck, guys. Ask lots of questions.